different Kim Komando show. You know, I normally like to open up the show with something fun and inspirational, and then I tell you one of my great jokes, and you just laugh so much. That's not going to happen, because here in the studio with me and Andrew, say hello, Andrew.
Hello, Andrew.
We have a wonderful, beautiful woman by the name of Stacey Wales, and you may have seen her in the news. You may have read her story, because it has made headlines all across the country. And this is a tough story to hear. I'm going to warn you up front. It is. This is a difficult story to hear. And there is a tremendous tech angle with this that's going to make you think. You see, Stacey's brother, Chris Pelkey, was a 37-year-old Army veteran. Now, in 2021, I'm just going to tell you what happened. He was killed in a road rage shooting in Chandler, Arizona. Okay. Who among us has not experienced road rage? Have you, Andrew?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. I mean, I'll never forget, I was driving down Camelback Road, just minding my own business. And somebody, I don't know, high on drugs, crazy, whatever they may be, started swerving in and out, flipping me off. Is this similar to you?
Yeah, and mine was an old lady. She cut me off, and then I backed away, and then she cut me off again. So again, I assume she's probably intoxicated. And then when I kind of tried to get around her, she started giving me the finger, yelling through a closed window. She was going really mad.
Yeah, there's a lot of weirdos, a lot of crazy people in the world. Now, the man who shot Chris, Gabriel Horquesitas, he said that this was all self-defense. The case went to trial 2 times. And just this month, Gabriel was sentenced to 10.5 years for manslaughter. But what's making the headlines isn't just the road rage incident, not the case, but it's what Stacey and her family did so bravely at the sentencing. So instead of writing a victim impact letter or creating a slideshow about the victim, Chris, she used artificial intelligence to create a video of Chris and speaking her words that she wrote, which, by the way, I thought it was so interesting that Stacey did not use ChatGPT. You didn't use ChatGPT, right?
No, not at all.
Okay, you just wrote this out.
Old-fashioned way with pen and paper.
Yes. And in his voice, take a listen.
To Gabriel Horquesitas, the man who shot me. It is a shame we encountered each other that day in those circumstances. In another life, we probably could have been friends. I believe in forgiveness and in God who forgives. I always have, and I still do.
Okay, we're going to be talking all about this. And first, I've got to get some administrative things out of the way. I'm sorry about this. But just a reminder that if you have any questions, you can give us a call on the Komando hotline at 1-888-825-5254. And we have some sponsors that we need to thank for helping to make this show possible. First of which is NetSuite. Over 41,000 businesses have future-proofed their business with NetSuite by Oracle, the #1 cloud ERP, just bringing accounting, financial management, inventory, and HR all into one fluid platform. And let me tell you, NetSuite has added a range of new AI features to its product, and the updates are designed to help companies just operate more efficiently. So, for example, the software can now automatically detect unusual activity in a company's financial data, allowing issues to be addressed quickly before they become bigger problems. It helps give you the visibility and control you need to make quick decisions. And with real-time insights and forecasting, let me tell you, you are just peering into the future with actionable data. And when you're closing the books in days and not weeks, you're just spending less time looking backward and more time on what's next. NetSuite helps you respond to immediate challenges and then seize your biggest opportunities. You can download the CFO's Guide to AI Machine Learning for free right now at netsuite.com/Kim. That's netsuite.com/Kim. And also SimpliSafe. In an unpredictable world, nothing matters more than the safety of your home and your loved ones. And that's why millions of Americans trust SimpliSafe home security. Here's what you need to do. Visit simplysafekim.com to claim 50% off a new system with a professional monitoring plan, and you get your first month free. But you need to go this address, simplysafekim.com. There's no safe like SimpliSafe. So, as I mentioned, joining us here in the studio here in Phoenix is Stacey Wales. And Stacey, let's start at the beginning. tell us about your brother, Chris.
Kim, thanks so much for having me and for listening to Chris's story. Chris was an Army veteran. He was a churchgoer. He was a missionary person that would go over to Liberia and help the orphans and dig trenches for their new schools and their new medical facilities. He just loved people. He loved God and he loved people were his big tenets in life. And he never had two nickels to rub together, but he would give you the shirt off his back. And
that's great.
He was the life of the party, and it was difficult to try to find some content to build what we did because he was always surrounded by laughter and joy, and he was the center of all of our holidays. And everybody loved him, and he was a goofball and very humorous, very black and white in his issues that he stood for, and you knew where he stood on any issue. And at the end of the day, even if it was a hot debate with him, he'd say, let's go grab a drink and play some pool or something like that, even if he just had a hot debate with you.
Now, was he like that when you guys were growing up, too?
He's 7 years younger than I am. He was the youngest of three.
So there's a spread.
There's a spread. So by the time I left for college, he was probably just spreading his wings.
Yeah. You know what? I can relate to that. My brother's 11 years older than me. And so, we didn't really have that rivalry, so to speak, because by the time I was getting, like you said, he was already off to college by the time I kind of figured out, oh, that's my brother, and this is what it means. So take us back to that day in Chandler with the road rage incident. What happened?
He was leaving a church softball game on a very popular road in the residential area. And he turned out of the parking lot, and within a mile, he was going to be dead. He was cut off, much like the story you and Andrew were telling. Somebody cut him off, and he didn't like that very much, so he entered a free lane, and he drove up in front of that person, and they didn't like that. And when they got into the traffic light right there, the person behind him that originally cut him off beeped on his horn. And my brother didn't like that very much, so he chose to get out of the car. And he was shot dead right there in the street before he could get anywhere.
Wow. So Gabriel had a gun?
Gabriel had a gun. He was actually on his way to the shooting range or where you buy ammunition, one of those sporting stores. He was out running errands. He had just left his house as well. And he waited for the police to come. It was a middle of a sunny Saturday afternoon. And he waited for the police to come and cooperated fully with them. But
your brother didn't have a firearm?
No. In fact, 12 witnesses from that very busy intersection that came out to help him testified in court in both trials. And all of them said that Chris exited the car with his hands, palms wide open up to the sides of his ears, up above his shoulders, saying, "Do you want to start something? Do you have a problem?" And then the shooter shot him.
Oh. Wow. Then you went to trial not just once, but twice. Why? I was wondering, why 2 times?
There were 2 trials, and they were 2 years apart, and that made this process even more grueling and excruciating. The first trial was 5.5 weeks long here in Maricopa County Superior Court in Phoenix. And at the end of the verdict, the jury deliberated for a few days. At the end of that verdict, they delivered a guilty of manslaughter verdict, but in the same breath, the judge, who was a different judge, then presided over the second trial. But the original judge, in the same breath of saying that Mr. Horcasitas was guilty of manslaughter, granted the defense's motion for a retrial, citing the defense attorney cited that the state prosecution didn't handle a piece of evidence correctly procedurally. And so a retrial was granted on that.
Wow.
And so obviously the second trial had the same result?
The second trial had the exact same result. He was convicted of manslaughter.
And after the conviction, because we were talking about this here in the studios, that's when you can show a victim impact statement.
So that's an important distinction. The jury is only there for the trial. And unlike the movies, when the judge hammers the gavel and says, "I find you guilty of manslaughter, I sentence you to 10.5 years, that's part of the sentence, or the statement rather, comes 30 to 60 days after. So the jury gives a verdict, the judge reads it, and then the judge says, "We will have sentencing in 30 to 60 days. In our case, the judge scheduled it right there on the fly with us in court, and he says we will reconvene May 1st, 2025, which was about 30 days or so after we got the verdict. So the jury is dismissed. We never saw them again. They do not come back for sentencing in Arizona.
I see.
So now you guys, obviously, you have the verdict, you're going to sentencing. Whose idea originally was it, I think we could have an impact if we used artificial intelligence?
It was my idea entirely. And in fact, I concealed the idea from the rest of my family. The only one that I involved was my husband, because I knew that this was going to be a very large mountain for each of us to climb. Now, what's important to know is that this AI video was not offered to the judge in a vacuum. This was one of 49 letters of impact that people that knew Chris throughout his entire life wrote into the judge.
Talking about Chris and
yes,
what a great
that is
person he was.
customary.
And
What his impact of Chris meant to their life and what their life is like now that he's not
there,
here.
yeah.
And to even if they wanted to ask for maximum sentence or not, which is what all of the letters did. 49 letters came in for the judge to read a day or two before walking into sentencing.
Is that, I don't mean to sound like I'm ignorant, and is that it seems like a lot of letters. It seems like a high number.
It is a high number. In fact, when we got the result, the jury said that it was guilty. We walked out of the courtroom that day, and our victims' rights attorney, Jessica Gattuso, said to us, "Your job now is to humanize Chris and to make him feel, make the judge feel. Your job is to make the judge feel."
So he's not just a victim. He is a person that we know who he is, and it could be maybe the judge might relate to him as being a son or a brother, or and to really realize that it's not a nameless, faceless thing that we have here. This was a human being.
You know, the only part of Chris that the judge knew was his autopsy photo shown in trial and the video of closed-circuit TV security cameras from the establishment on the street that captured this of Chris being blown away in the street. Those are the only two ways that the judge knew that Chris was a human. And so when our attorney told us that 30 days, get ready for your impact statements, I launched a campaign in my own family to reach out to everybody that I could find that was ever connected to Chris. And I private messaged them, hundreds of people asking, if you knew Chris, please, we welcome you to write a letter to the judge that he's going to read before going into sentencing on May 1st. And so to say that there was an exorbitant amount that responded is true. Our victims' rights attorney was collecting those, and she was also surprised.
So you decided to do AI. You're doing it kind of in a vacuum a little bit, because you don't want to, as you said, put this burden on other people. Because in this whole process, you know, it's one thing to have somebody pass away who's close to you and a family member, because you have time to grieve. But the grieving process has been extended because you have to relive everything through every court case and every document that comes in that needs to be signed. You know, and I don't know the magnitude of that. I can just imagine that it's tremendous. What technology did you use to create Chris?
Well, firstly, I never embarked on this process to say that I was going to create AI. It's something that actually evolved when I was sitting down to write my own impact statement. So we had those 49 letters that came in, and then there were going to be 10 of us that spoke in person that day during sentencing before Chris's video was ever even shown to the judge. And when I sat down a week and a half before sentencing to write my own impact statement, which I actually had been writing for 2 years since the first trial, I was having a hard time coming up with what I wanted to say. Not because the material or the content wasn't there, but because it didn't feel worthy of the last things to say to somebody like a judge making a decision, a quantifiable number on what Chris's life meant.
Right.
So I was trying to write down what I wanted to say, and it just kept bothering me in my ear that I'm really at odds with what I believe Chris would say. He believes a lot in God and in people and in forgiveness and thankfulness. And those are not necessarily the tenets that I stand for, or at least in that moment that I was able to express. I don't forgive the shooter. I'm still working towards that. But not being able to offer that in my own impact statement, I could not deny that, well, that's so different than what Chris would think if he were here to speak. And where does the judge ever get to hear that? And that's when I got the idea to say, well, I'm going to speak for him.
Okay. We have to just take a quick break. And when we come back, I want to play a little bit of Chris's voice. And I want you to tell us what's going on in the video, okay?
You bet.
Okay, if you're just joining us, this is a different Kim Komando show. Normally we're taking tons of phone calls and I'm sharing what's going on in various products, and Andrew and I are, I'm telling great jokes and
That was a good one.
yeah, okay. And it's different because Stacey Wales is with us. And if you're just tuning in, Stacey has a powerful story and how she helped her brother Chris with a victim impact statement using artificial intelligence. So, guys in the studio, let's play a little bit of Chris's voice from 2021.
Hello. Just to be clear for everyone seeing this, I am a version of Chris Pelkey recreated through AI that uses my picture and my voice profile. I was able to be digitally regenerated to share with you today. But here is insight into who I actually was in real life. Take a look.
All right, I'm Chris Pelkey. I served with the United States Army in the infantry. I'm from upstate New York. And
What's going on there,
Where'd you
Stacey?
deploy?
In 2021, Chris
Baghdad
exited a
2000.
PTSD rehab treatment program that he was in for a year during lockdown over COVID. And in that video that it cuts to in the AI is an exit interview that he was doing.
Oh, that's a very powerful video right there.
Let me ask real quick, because this goes along with the timeline. 49 letters supporting your brother, video AI, voiceover AI. What was your worst case scenario? What was your fear that was going to happen when it came to the sentencing?
That the judge would object or that the defense attorney would object and we wouldn't be able to get it heard all the way. And then more so that it would interrupt the sentiment of the presentation that we were making as the 10 of us that walked down that day to speak our statements and have Chris end it.
Now, what did the defense attorney say? That's an interesting question.
He didn't say anything during its presentation, but he did speak to it after.
What did he say?
He was the very last one to speak to the judge before handing down the sentence, meaning after our side went, we took a quick break, and then the defense attorney had all of the shooter's people read their letters. There were 3 people that spoke, and the shooter spoke as well. And then the defense attorney spoke, and he says, Chris Pelkey said that he and Gabriel Horcasitas could have been friends. And I've been through Chris's phone because it's been in evidence, and it still is. And there have been a lot of hobbies that I've noted that the two of them share, and they probably could have been friends. I tend to agree with them. And at that moment is when I knew that this worked, that this humanized Chris when the defense attorney was asking for leniency based on what Chris said.
100% it humanized. Now, there's so much more I want to talk to you about. So I want you to just stay right there, okay? And when we come back, I want to know more about what was the moment in court. What did the judge say? How did the judge react? Did you get any other pushback because it was artificial intelligence? So we got that coming up here on the Kim Komando Show. Listen, online security is a growing problem. Every time you connect to an unencrypted network in cafes, hotels, or airports, your online data is just not secure. Any hacker on the same network can gain access and steal your online data. That's why you need ExpressVPN. Let me tell you, this is an app that protects you and all your online information. They send 100% of your online activity through encrypted servers. It would take a hacker over 1 billion years to get past their security. So that means that no one can hijack your Wi-Fi connection and access your online data. It works on any device like laptops, phones, and TVs. Super easy to use. Just one subscription. You can use ExpressVPN on up to 8 devices at the same time. That's enough to protect your entire family. So start taking your online security seriously and use my special link to get an extra 4 months of ExpressVPN for free. Head over to expressvpn.com/Kim. That's expressvpn.com/Kim. Hey, listen, if you're just tuning in, this is a different Kim Komando show. In studio with us is Stacey Wales, and we're talking about her brother Chris, who was an Army vet who lost his life in a road rage shooting. And Stacey was very insightful and created an AI version of Chris that was actually used in the second court case as part of a victim impact statement. Now, I will tell you, Stacey, the whole video is fabulous that you did. I'm sure your brother was very proud of you for pulling all that together. I liked how you included about his hobbies. He liked to fish. There was the social media picture of the filter that we all used. Where did you find that?
I didn't know that existed until after he died. A cousin of ours in New York sent it to me during her grieving process, looking through his pictures they ever exchanged with each other. And she sent it to me, and she says, I don't know if you've ever seen this. And I hadn't. And it was an age filter that he put on his own picture when he was alive. And I didn't share it with anybody in my family. Nobody had ever seen it except for that cousin, as far as I'm aware. And I wasn't sure when I was going to reveal it to my family because we were going through our own grieving process. But this felt like the right venue to show what he thought he could have looked forward to looking like.
And when he was, 60? Is that what it was?
Probably.
Or something
yeah,
like that?
he looked 60, something in there.
Like. And so you play this video in court, and it's not long. It's, a minute 10? Is that it?
Well, it splices into other videos. Well, I think the whole thing is 3-4 minutes.
Oh, 3-4 minutes. Okay. And, I obviously never met your brother, but he sounds like a fabulous person.
He was the best of us, my brother, and I always say that about him.
Yeah. And so you played this video. What was... I saw the judge's reaction, and it did exactly what you wanted to do. I liked, you tell us about, because I liked when the judge said, no, normally I talk about full names and last names, and just because this is a legal proceeding, talk to that.
So that was an amazing moment. So what you have seen out there on the internet is about a less than 2-minute clip of the judge's reaction directly to this piece. However, he gave a 20-minute monologue.
Oh, he did?
Delivering his sentence that ebbed and flowed and waxed and waned, and we couldn't even tell if he was siding with us or siding with the shooter, if he was going to go max, if he was going to go min. It was very thought-provoking what he had to say on both sides. And when he finally got to this part that addressed the AI, that's the clip that's out there for everyone to see. But the judge reacted to the whole body of work that was presented to him that day. A lot of people take this information and just see it at face value and the sound bites that it creates and think that the judge reacted to only seeing this video and made his decision from there. But it was the 49 letters he read before walking into the court that day. It was the 10 of us that spoke in person with 65 pictures playing throughout our stories. And then Chris's AI was the very last video to speak. And then we all sat down, and then after the defense went, then the judge handed this 20-minute monologue, and it was just beautiful. It really was. But when he said and called Chris by his first name, and he reacted and said, that really is the kind of person that I've been hearing about today, I knew it worked legally.
I think we have, can we pull up that clip of the judge?
I love that AI. Thank you for that. And as angry as you are, and justifiably angry as the family is, I heard the forgiveness, and I know Mr. Horcasitas appreciated it, but so did I. As I said, I like to think I would do that. I don't know that I would. But I love the beauty in what Christopher, and I call him Christopher, I always call people by their last names. It's a formality of the court, but I feel like calling him Christopher as we've gotten to know him today. I feel that was genuine, that his obvious forgiveness of Mr. Horcasitas reflects the character I heard about today. But it also says something about the family. Because you told me how angry you were, and you demanded the maximum sentence. And even though that's what you wanted, you allowed Chris to speak from his heart as you saw it. I didn't hear him asking for the maximum sentence.
Again, this is artificial intelligence. And you could see, you saw that too, Andrew. I mean, you can you see the judge is upset.
There's emotion there.
There
Lots
certainly
of
is,
it.
right? And so the AI gets people upset because they think that perhaps this was generative AI, and it was not. This was scripted AI, which is much different. It was really a presentation tool, much like PowerPoint or videos or pictures can be. And that's what this was. AI did not speak for Chris. The sentiment
What
did.
tool did you use?
So there was about 7 different tools or so that my husband and our other friend, Scott Yenser, used in order to create this. There's not one tool out there at the moment where you can upload a picture and upload a voice file and have a scripted prompt spot where you can write what you wanted to say and hit click and have it produce something like this. This was a very human involvement, cultivating and training and making sure, honing in on the humanity that Chris represented so that it was an authentic representation of who we knew Chris to be and believed him to want to say.
Because we're in audio, in the audio business. AI Chris had tone and inflection. It wasn't that robotic voice. I felt like he was actually talking to me.
Was there a lot of trial and error? Like you tried this software and it didn't work, and this source and it didn't sound right until you found one that actually sounded like your brother?
My husband, Tim, and Scott have been doing this for years. They do this for corporate clients, believe it or not, for perhaps deceased 100-year-old CEOs that maybe want to make an appearance at an upcoming conference. So they've already been working and honing on the tools. The problem, though, is the data set that you can feed into it. So you have to train AI on the subject matter. And Chris was a very boisterous guy, and he was loving and fun and always surrounded by people and parties and noise. And thankfully, this YouTube video clip, this YouTube interview was out there, which I did not really know was out there until we started looking in closer to his digital legacy after he passed away. I found this interview out there. And the reason that this works, Andrew, is because the tone of what Chris is talking about in his source video that the AI is cloned from, the voice is trained on, it has a softer and a gentler tone, unlike what Chris normally sounded like and was spirited to be, which really worked for the efficacy of the AI that we produced for the medium we were going to show it in, a courtroom. But if we had trained it on lively or birthday party type information for the voice, it would have been more spirited. So it just aligned that was the right source material to feed into it to help with this tone. But you are also correct that AI has a hard time emoting. In fact, I did want Tim and Scott to put in there a laugh in one particular part when he's talking about that picture he holds up. That's an aged picture, because Chris would make a serious situation lighter, and comedy was a part of him, and lightness. So I wanted him to hold it up and say, "Scary, huh?" with a little chuckle.
Right.
And I could hear that chuckle. And they tried training the AI from a different source that had a chuckle in it, and it really came out very strangely. So that iteration sounded something like, "Scary, huh?" And it didn't work at all, but I wanted to see what it would be like, and it didn't work, and so we had to make those concessions. But to have the AI kind of train on the tone was because of the source material.
Now, you said you kept this from your family, and you kept it a secret, you and your husband and your friend that were working on it. Is that because you wanted to avoid emotional pushback from someone saying, "We cannot bring Chris back"?
That never crossed my mind in that manner, right? But I did make certain concessions of deciding along the way, we're just going to keep this to ourselves, Tim and I, because everyone that showed up there in my family, our immediate and nuclear family, my mother, my brother, my twins, 14-year-olds, we're all going down, 10 of us that day, and we all had our own truth that we wanted to say in the impact statements that we wrote and read individually. And that is a monumental task, to walk into a courtroom and go on the other side of that pony wall, that short pony wall, to closer to where the judge sits, and to look him in the eye and to read him something. Most people are never in a courtroom, and now you're in the active participant spot, and the shooter is over your right-hand side, which anyone has been to court for our family that saw the shooter in court for the first time, had a very visceral reaction. And there were a lot of us that were going down that day, probably 6 or 7 of us that had not seen the shooter yet, my 14-year-old twins included. So I knew we all, going down that day, had a job to do. That was their role. That was their task. That was their mountain they had to climb. And knowing that this was going to be possibly controversial, and for all I could find on the internet, the first time that this had been done,
it is your first
I knew
time.
that this was a big risk, and I knew that it would have a big weight, a burden with carrying it to the finish line. And I did not want to distract any of the other family members that day that needed to do what they needed to do for their own healing and closure, for their voice to be heard.
So Horcasitas, he got maximum sentence?
He got maximum sentence for this type of charge. Manslaughter for this type of charge was 7 years to 10.5 years. And the state prosecution was only going to be asking for 9 years. There's one news outlet that got it wrong, and it's proliferated 9.5 years. But the state asked for 9 years.
Do you think he would have gotten the max sentence if you had not done this AI video?
I don't think it was only the AI video, because it was an entire body of work that was provided, the 49 letters, the 10 statements read in person, my children there crying, my mother crying, delivering this powerful, powerful presentation, 65 photos being shown, me dramatically introducing it, because I did make my own impact statement in advance of this as well. And then this was just a capstone on it. But I do believe that that entire body of work affected change, and I think the judge gave us an extra 1.5 years because of it.
Well, Stacey, thank you for being here. Amazing story, amazing work, amazing job. I know Chris is proud of you.
Thank you so much.
I am. And I'll tell you, we went to the break and I said, I got something for you. You are amazing. Not a lot of people could sit here and do what you did, because it's nerve-wracking being in a studio with all these lights and 500 radio stations. But there's something else for you. And I think there's an advocacy, something here for you where, I don't know, in my heart, I'm feeling like your story is not done yet. That there's something that you can do, you're going to help so many more people. And I'm sure there are people who are listening right now who are thinking, how do I do this in my life? How can I use AI to have an impact some other way? But I think as far as maybe somebody's listening right now and maybe they are in the middle of a road rage incident. Okay. Maybe you're the road rager. Maybe you're the victim. It's not worth anybody's life, right? But again, in my heart, I feel like that there's a calling for you, because you have something that not a lot of people have. And it is the confidence and the desire to help. And you can see in your heart and in your face that that's the reason why you're here, to help other people. And I really believe you can keep doing that.
Thank you, Kim. And that's why I continue to talk about this, because if I give one victim out there hope that they can speak for their loved one, if their state or country allows, I want to give them that permission. Nobody gave me the permission. I had to find that out on my own. But look what it can do.
It has done more than you can imagine.
Thank you.
You have touched so many people. And I'm proud of you for doing it.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
All right, coming back, we have more of the show you don't want to miss. Hey, cybercrime is not slowing down. It's getting worse. Hackers are smarter, sneakier. Let me tell you, they're after everything, your devices, your data, even your bank account. So how do you fight back? One of the best defenses is solid antivirus software. It scans for malware, blocks suspicious websites, and stops hackers before they can do any damage. A healthy dose of thinking twice when opening emails or clicking links doesn't hurt either. But for the antivirus help you need, I trust and recommend Total AV. They update you in real time, keeping you protected from the latest threats. Head over to protectwithkim.com right now, and you're going to get Total AV for just $19 for the first year. Covers up to 5 devices, including Windows, Macs, and smartphones. And don't wait until it's too late. Your security matters. Get protected right now. Get my exclusive deal for Total AV right now at protectwithkim.com. All right, coming right back, we have more of your... All right, coming right back, we have some phone calls here on the Kim Komando Show. Hey, you know that glow that you see on people who just seem to radiate health? It's not just good lighting, it's what's happening inside their bodies. And one of the best kept secrets to looking and feeling amazing is collagen. You see, as we get older, our body slows down collagen production, leading to wrinkles, thinning hair, achy joints, and brittle nails. But here's the good news, you can fight back naturally with high-quality collagen from Native Path. You give your body the essential building blocks to get smoother skin and stronger nails and shinier hair and even healthier joints. Now, some studies suggest collagen collagen supplements may support bone health. And you're not going to turn back time, but you're going to feel the best at any age. As a Kim Komando listener, you get 45% off with free shipping and a free gift bundle. Head over to getnativepath.com/Kim. GetNativePath.com/Kim.
These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Individual results may vary.
Eugene in St. Petersburg, Florida. Hi there, Eugene. Glad to have you with us today.
Hi, Kim. Thank you very much.
So what's going on?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to ask for your help. I've listened to you for a long time, and my research hasn't come up with very much, and you're one of the few that I completely trust for straight information.
And so how can I help you? And thank you for the compliments.
Thank you. Well, I'm a 25-year Air Force veteran, and I asked you about a voice-to-text program where the narrative could be transferred to a computer, preferably in a Word file. Mm-hmm. And a couple of things are pretty important. Portability and accuracy was very important. And what prompted the inquiry is that my family often asks about some of my experiences. And when I provide details like surviving an airplane crash and being followed by the KGB in Moscow, they say, "Dad, you need to get that on paper." So yeah. That's why I'm asking you for your advice.
Well, there's the easy way and the hard way. And I always like to tell people how to do things the easy way. The hard way is that you get Microsoft Word and you get a microphone and you translate and transcribe all this stuff using AI and then you put it into a book. Versus there's a service, it's only $100 a year, and it's called Storyworth. And it's just like it sounds, Eugene, Story and then Worth, STORYWORTH. It sends you a question a week and you answer it by phone or by email, or you can type it out if you want. And at the end of the year, they will turn all your stories into a professionally bound book, including photos. And so you don't have to hire anybody else to do it. It just makes it really simple. Now, there's also the Library of Congress. They have the Veterans History Project, and it's volunteer-led interviews. And maybe it's local librarians or historians or high school students. You can learn more about that at loc.gov/vets. And of course, there's StoryCorps military voices, and there's also some other history projects through VA hospitals and things like that. But I think that if you could look at Storyworth, Eugene, I think that would be the easiest way to get your story. Sounds amazing. Being followed by the KGB. Have you ever been followed by the KGB?
Every weekend. Come on. It's child's play.
It would be amazing to read. Eugene, if you need any more help, I'm always here for you. Better hires start with smarter insights, and LinkedIn has the strongest hiring data and insights to help you identify the right candidates. Find your next great hire on LinkedIn and post your job for free at linkedin.com/Kim. Terms and conditions apply. Andrew, do you know what a Wi-Fi pineapple is? Wi-Fi?
Of course I do, but explain it to everybody else who doesn't.
It's supposed to test security, but hackers use it to copy the names of trusted networks. So you think you're connecting into Wi-Fi when really hackers are getting all your keystrokes. And so what you want to do is make sure that you turn off auto-connect for any public Wi-Fi and use a VPN if you can. And what do you call the social media trend that they want to cancel pineapples?
I don't know. What is it?
#bananas.
Goodness, this hour's over.